Well, notwithstanding the circumstances, it's quite an extraordinary debate we're having, isn't it? Would you dial 999 when confronted by a police officer? I did ask earlier on for any texts at all from serving police officers, and we got one, and we're going to get him on very shortly. So we'll speak to him in a few moments, and that will be enlightening for all sorts of reasons. But let's speak to our next guest first of all. Anna Burley joins us now, co-founder of Reclaim the Streets. Hello, Anna.
Hi there, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Leon Hades, former head teacher and founder of Guide Education, who work with around 1,000 schools worldwide on a range of education policies. Hello, Leon.
Hello, very good evening.
Hi, and Della O'Sullivan is a martial arts expert from Fight Like a Girl UK, teaches women's self-defence in London. Hello, Della.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi. To all three of you, we've had quite a mixed response to this story today here on Five Live. Just a couple of texts here, though, that just to start us off. Wayne Couzens was an aberration of a police officer, not a representative. Police have hundreds of thousands of interactions with women every year and give amazing service in the vast majority of cases. We don't assume all teachers are dangerous when one gets found guilty of child abuse, for example. Why is it different when talking about the police? Another one here. What happened to Sarah is terrible, but after all this, was scared to talk to the police or gone near the police and ask them questions. It's getting ridiculous. Anna, what do you take away from this about the overarching issue of trust with the police in this country at the moment, particularly street policing?
I really hate when we talk about Wayne Couzens as a bad apple and say that the problem started and finished with him, because the reality of it is that the police is filled with predominantly men who abuse their position. Lots of police officers.
Hang on. No, hang on a minute. The police are predominantly filled with men who abuse their position.
No. The police, mostly male officers, many of whom abuse their position of power. I wanted to sort of clarify that I don't think women police officers are doing this, because I think this is a very gender-specific problem. I also was about to say that I'm a local councillor as well, and I work with my local police closely, and there are excellent police officers who do a really good job, but there is a culture that allows the bad ones to get away with it. It is not one bad apple. In the Met Police since 2010, 750 members of staff have faced sexual misconduct allegations, and only 83 of them have been sacked. So how do I know that when I report a crime or I ask for help or I'm stopped in the street, that person who stopped me, that man who stopped me, isn't someone who has a history of sexual misconduct?
So what is the fundamental issue here for you? Is it the vetting of candidates who get into the police force?
That is a problem, yes. And, there's stuff coming out today about the vetting process for Wayne Couzens. I think there's also a problem about that ongoing monitoring of, these things never start with rape and murder. Yeah. There's an escalation, like we saw with the shooter in Plymouth, for example. You can be radicalised online or by colleagues. I think there's a problem with the fact that, and we heard it from lots of commentators, former police officers today, about the police closing ranks. I think we need to have a duty on police officers to flag if a colleague is behaving badly, if a colleague is making women uncomfortable, if a colleague is making sexist, homophobic, misogynist, racist remarks. Because at the moment, by not reporting that, they're letting people like Wayne Couzens get away with the worst. It has to be all police, not just the really awful ones.
Leon, it's Katie here. I wanted to bring you in, as a former head teacher and somebody who, has founded this Guide Education. Clearly, if Anna's right, misogyny doesn't start when you enter the police. It's something that starts much earlier, something that society is or isn't, accepting of. I wonder what your experience of it is, what you think about all this.
Yeah, I think I agree with the idea that it starts a lot earlier. I mean, these are social norms, unfortunately, things that people parrot, ape and see, and that's a continuing frame of reference. The way to combat it at an early age is to try and get more information and more access to information out to parents and young people so they can be aware of what the equality, equity, fairness, etc., but not, as I said, in other instances, making it all about gender or making it all about race, just to talk about this as a human-to-human thing and the respect that we want for each other all the time. And then from there, obviously, seeds are planted to actually grow and understand how you can treat people as you grow.
And what about this point that was made by one of our texters that Tony read out a little while ago? And you're a former head teacher. This person who was saying, police have hundreds of thousands of interactions. We don't assume all teachers are dangerous when one gets found guilty of child abuse. So why is it different when we're talking about the police? What's your perspective on that?
I would agree with that in general, and I understand the colleague who said earlier that there's a closing of ranks. There's also kind of a fear of saying anything. I know within teaching, in instances where we were just thinking, is that teacher crossing the line, or are they going across too far? You don't know yourself where the boundaries are and what's right and wrong, and then you speak to a colleague or two, and it's just them. That's just the way it is. Obviously, in the police, it would be slightly higher. And I did actually sign up for the specials in London. I did some time with them before I had my first child. So I remember as well kind of the training, the initiation, what they were looking for. But I think the vetting was, sound. There wasn't anyone who I would, even in my cohort of people I joined with, that I would be terrified of or worried or think they would be doing something for power. A lot of the people you're speaking to were volunteering. They were doing it to help their communities. I don't think, although there is obviously a problem in instances, I don't think it's one that you would say it's the majority of police or teachers or people in public responsibility posts.
Della, we mentioned that you teach martial arts to